got something that might interest you.
Resident Evil 4 wasn't just a sequel, it was a revolution. It flipped the script on what a survival horror game could be, reinvented the entire franchise, and helped shape a new era of third-person action games. Today, we are diving into how Resident Evil 4 shook up the industry, saved the series from stagnation, and somehow made parasite zombies kind of cool.
¿Qué carajo estás haciendo aquí?
To understand Resident Evil 4's impact, you need to look at where the series was before it dropped. The original trilogy, and even Code Veronica, used what fans lovingly called tank controls with fixed camera angles. It made you feel vulnerable, sure, but it also made turning corners feel like piloting a forklift throughout a haunted house. These games were slow, methodical, and built around dread. But in the early 2000s, the approach was starting to age, especially with other franchises pushing forward with smoother movement and more dynamic gameplay. Resident Evil felt like it was stuck in the late 90s, while the rest of gaming had moved into a cinematic age. Games like Halo, Metal Gear Solid, and Splinter Cell were bringing cinematic storytelling, tighter controls, and big-budget spectacle to consoles. The audience was changing and expectations were rising. People still loved horror, but they also wanted a modern gameplay to go with it. Capcom knew that if Resident Evil didn't evolve, it was going to fall behind. So they made a bold decision. They reinvented the series completely. Not just tweak the formula, but kind of rebuild it from scratch. But that was easier said than done. Resident Evil 4 development was a mess. No exaggeration. It went through at least 4 different prototypes, each widely different from the last. One version was focused on ghosts and hallucinations, one leaned into a psych horror with Leon infected by a virus, and another was more stylish and combat heavy, and that one eventually morphed into Devil May Cry. Yes, really. Years were lost in trial and error, but eventually one vision stuck. An over-the-shoulder action horror hybrid, and that's when director Shinji Mikami stepped back in and said,
よし、適当にやってみよう。
Shinji Mikami knew they needed something bold, so he threw out everything people expected from Resident Evil, and he added a new over-the-shoulder camera, giving players more control over aiming and movement, real-time aiming with a laser sight, enemies that actually feel more dangerous, they dodged, flanked, and used ladders to chase you, and a faster and more intense passing that kept you moving. It was a complete overhaul, not just for the franchises, but for the third-person games in general. The tone was different too. Resident Evil 4 wasn't about creeping throughout silent corridors anymore, it was about surviving chaos. The game drops you into a rural village in Spain, and within minutes you are being haunted by villagers who speak in angry Spanish and come at you with farm tools. It's aggressive, loud, and unrelenting. Instead of 1 or 2 zombies, you are surrounded by entire mobs, and instead of waiting for jump scares, you are barricading windows and kicking ladders to stay alive. But here's the thing, it still felt like Resident Evil. It was just faster, more confident, and way more cinematic. And let's not forget the plot. You play as Leon S. Kennedy, now a federal agent after surviving the Raccoon City incident in Resident Evil 2. He is sent to rescue Ashley Graham, the US president's daughter, who has been kidnapped by a cult called Los Iluminados. Turns out the cult is infecting people with a parasite called Las Plagas, which give them hive mind powers, crazy tentacle mutations, and apparently a shared love for dramatic boss entrances.
I've been expecting you, my brethren.
No thanks, bro.
Leon has to rescue Ashley many times,
Actually, wait!
deal with a creepy little nobleman named Salazar, face off against Sadler, the parasite worshipping cult leader, and occasionally flirt and argue with Ada Wong, who's doing spy stuff and making it everyone's problem. Story's wild, but it works because it never takes itself too serious. When Resident Evil 4 launched in 2005, it was immediately recognized as a game changer. IGN gave it a perfect 10, but IGN's IGN, GameSpot called it a stunning achievement, it won multiple Game of the Year awards, and fans absolutely loved it. And it wasn't just critically acclaimed, it sold incredibly well, over 11 million copies across multiple platforms, and that's not even counting the remake. It proved that Resident Evil could evolve and stay relevant in a new era of gaming. Resident Evil 4 didn't just influence the Resident Evil series, it changed the way third-person shooters were made. Games like Gears of War, Dead Space, and The Last of Us all borrowed ideas from Resident Evil 4 camera system, pacing, and design philosophy. And even future Resident Evil games like Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, and the new Resident Evil 4 remake follow on its footsteps. Some were better and some were worse. It's one of the few games that truly reshape an entire genre. Resident Evil 4 is more than a great game. It's a turning point. It showed that horror could evolve, that action and atmosphere can coexist, and that sometimes the best way to refresh a series is to take risks. So next time someone asks, "Where's Resident Evil peak?" just smile and say,
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
"Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you soon, random internet brother."